Hi, Remy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I really do appreciate you meeting with me today. I know we talked a little bit before this, and before we start, I just want to acknowledge that today has been really heavy for you. And I know that attending a funeral and dealing with a loss has been a lot. And I just want you to know that however you're feeling right now is completely valid. I'm completely here for you, and there's no expectation in this space. So, whatever feels most helpful for you today, we can definitely go in that direction. So, yeah, how are you feeling in this moment?
Um, it's a lot. I mean, he was, you know, just he was the guy I nannied for. So, but we got really close over the last 4 years, and it's just hard knowing that he was such a good dad, and now there's an 8-year-old that doesn't have a dad.
Yeah, that is definitely definitely a lot and definitely very heavy to process. And I know that grief can bring up so many different emotions all at once, and sometimes even ones we don't expect. So, yeah, I kind of just if this is the area that we want to cover today, I kind of just want to know, what has been the most present emotion for you today and what have you been feeling the most?
Um, I think anxious, honestly. Sorry, I think anxious just because I was trying not to cry in front of Nico, his son, kind of the idea of being strong for him.
Mm.
So, because he didn't get it at first. It was too abstract of a concept. So we were all kind of trying to have to explain it to him and took a couple people and a couple different tries. So now that he's really in the emotional aspect of it, just making sure, you know, to be there for him rather than needing someone to be there for me today.
Yeah, I mean that makes complete sense. I believe grief affects us,
Mm-hmm.
um, every part of us, and it's definitely okay and valid to feel that way. And yeah, that really shows how much you care for this family and how much you care for, the son.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen him multiple times a week for the last 4 years. And we've gone through a couple of different health scares with his dad already. So
Hmm.
and this came unexpectedly, which is the hard one of the hardest parts, I think, because 2 years ago he was in a coma because he had a carotid heart artery. So he got like an artificial heart valve put in, and we didn't think he was going to come out of a coma. He was in it for 3 months, so they signed the papers to pull the plug, and then he miraculously woke up the same day that they were supposed to pull it. So we were already, ready then, and then we're like, oh, okay, he's better now, and then there's just middle of the night out of the blue this time. So
Yeah, that's really difficult.
mhm.
Do you believe it, in today's session, do you believe it'd be more helpful to talk about him and what he meant to you and, kind of what everything you're processing with him? Or would you rather focus on kind of more of the emotion aspect of how you're feeling right now and how it's affecting you throughout your day?
I think I'd rather just talk about him.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of focus on the positives with him.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
he was really cool.
yeah, go I would love to hear more about him and what he really meant to you.
Yeah, so for one, he was the definition of a Marine. He was a very decorated Marine. He served like 28 years or something like that before he retired from the Marine Corps. Um, and you can just tell in every aspect of his demeanor. I mean, down to the shaved head, the constant weekly. He had a once a week at the same time every like Thursday, I think, or Wednesday or whatever. Every single week he went and got his head shaved. And I'm like, I don't think you need to pay someone to do that for you, but okay. Just part of his, regimen.
Right.
Um, he always got on me because I live alone. He was like, have you gotten your concealed carry license yet? have you gotten your concealed carry license yet? He goes, you should really get a gun. You should really get this. You're also named after one, so you should get one. He harped on me about that almost every time I saw him. Um, so that was interesting because his son lost his cross necklace at his dad's house last week. So everybody that was there, we went back to the house and we were looking for it today. And by the time I left, we still hadn't found it. So we have no idea where this necklace is. We think his son knows, but he's just kind of dissociating right now. So we think maybe in a couple days or a week or so he might remember where it is. But he owned the house, so it's not like the house is going anywhere or anyone's cleaning it out necessarily. Um, but it was funny because we found three hidden gun compartments between his car and his house while looking for the necklace. We're like, oh, well, did you look at that? It's not shocking, but it is so funny at the end of the day.
Well, it
So,
sounds like he really cared about you and your safety. So that's awesome to hear. Sounds like he was a really good guy and did care for the people around him. I'm hoping that's, why he had the gun safes.
yeah, he was one of those people where if you didn't know him and you had just like a one-off interaction with him, you'd be like, "Oh, he sucks. Like he's a hard ass. He's not like rude or whatever." But when you got to know him, you're just like, "Oh, that's just his demeanor." But he's a really nice guy. I mean, he helped me out in multiple different ways. My car broke down. He came pick me up. My car needed to be fixed. He helped me pay for it. He called me once to watch his son, and I was unavailable because I was dealing with a court thing for my dad in a different state. And he didn't know that I had anything to do with courts, like cases that I had to worry about. And without even skipping a beat, I was like, well, he was like, hey, can you watch Nico? And I was like, oh, sorry, no, I'm in California for court. Without even skipping a beat, no questions asked. He didn't know what the scenario was. He was like, do you have an attorney? Do you need help getting representation? He was like, do you need help paying for that? And just like without even questioning it, because he knew that I was a good person. So he knew that he was willing to do that. So spoke to who he was.
Yeah, it sounds like he was very supportive and very supportive of you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this can definitely be tough. And I know loss can shake up everything,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's this sudden and out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Our emotions, our routines, and even our sense of stability
Mm-hmm.
can feel lost. And as you're processing all this, what has been the hardest thing for you?
I think work because he was also a regular at my job. So I found out on Sunday from another member, and I couldn't leave work because we were short staffed.
Mhm.
And then that was the day that it started getting around to the other regulars and his friends at the gym and whatnot. And then on Monday, I just knew it was going to be tough because I knew now that Ward was traveling. And I had 15 different conversations in the first 3 hours of my shift on Monday of people asking what happened, what's going to happen with his son, like all these questions that I didn't know the answer to. And just, some people were just being nosy and some people were being nice about it and saying like, "Oh, I cared about him too. He's such a great person." But at the end of the day, I was still at work, trapped behind the desk, and I couldn't leave. So,
Have you noticed anything different about how maybe you're showing up to work since this has happened, since Sunday, since the news hit you?
um, definitely, it's been a little bit more somber because I knew I would see people, and I
Okay.
knew that, of course, the immediate weeks we're gonna have a lot of conversation. So, yeah, it also makes me a little anxious because a lot of people are looking to me for answers because they knew that I'd be the person that would know, versus any of them. So
Yeah,
feels wrong giving out the information, even though I was given permission to tell the
right,
story of what happened. Still doesn't feel like it's my place.
right. I totally understand that and totally valid for feeling everything that you are feeling. And especially at work, when people are bombarding you with questions and they know how close you were, you being with the family, supporting them and them supporting you
Mm-hmm.
can definitely be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what has been maybe the most overwhelming part of, balancing this grief with your daily responsibilities? Because I know in our previous sessions we've talked a lot about how much you do, with
Mhm.
it being work and um, class, and being able to find a balance between that.
Well, I made the decision not to go to class on Monday because Monday was the day that I had so much conversation about it. And then I made the decision that I won't be going to class tonight just because I did just come from the viewing.
Hmm.
So, and I've been to funerals before, and I've been to one viewing before, but I feel like it's a lot different when you're younger and you don't really understand versus I am fully aware of what's going on and I know, you know, the reality. And it's just, at the end of the day, a viewing is a viewing. So it's not easy to walk in to do and then just to go to class and be like, okay, hi. It's not really going to work out that well.
Definitely. And yeah, I would say you have every right to, push things off. And I'm really hoping that your teachers and bosses can understand.
Yeah, they've been super understanding so far.
That's good. Would you say you felt maybe pressure to almost keep things normal, or have you kind of been giving yourself the space to grieve and really let
Um,
things settle in?
I'd say it's in the middle because on one hand, I have made the decision to take off of certain things like class twice in the same week, which is, that's a lot in one week. Um, but then at the same point, I kind of do feel pressured to continue my routine because it wasn't my immediate family. It wasn't, like, yeah, I was close with him, but at the end of the day, how close was I with him is what it comes down to. So knowing that that's not my dad, that's not my uncle or anything like that, should I be taking things off? But at the end of the day, it's still someone I cared about. So I'm kind of in the middle with that.
Yeah, and grief is definitely an interesting thing and a lot to take in and affects us differently at different times.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's always a struggle, and it definitely makes sense that um work and school can become more difficult
Mhm.
during that whole processing time of that.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
yeah, if you were to describe, how you're feeling at work and at home and at school right now, what words would you describe?
Um, I don't know if we're being honest. It's this weird kind of limbo, where I have responsibilities, but it kind of doesn't feel like I do. Because I know that, for me, this week has all been making sure Nico's okay, making sure his mom's okay, what do they need, kind of a thing. Um, so I don't really know how I don't know.
Right. It sounds like you really do care about the family, and, you know, you are putting maybe your thoughts aside right now to be able to hold emotional space for Nico and his mom.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, that loss and that can be very difficult and take up a lot of emotional space for them. And I believe it's completely understandable how you're feeling in that kind of limbo space, So what has been helping you to be that support for Nico and his mom?
Um, just kind of doing what I can. So I went ahead and I, already spoke to my manager and I handled his gym account, which is a minuscule thing, but it's not something that I wanted them to have to worry about.
Hmm.
So I did that. I got like a Build-A-Bear for his son with a little Marine outfit 'cause his dad was Marine, but it's
Mm.
a star bear, so it looks like the night sky, and it comes with a real star that you can name. So that's something for him and his mom to do, like a tribute for his dad. So I did that, and I got the information of other friends that he had at the gym for his mom that his mom didn't have the contacts for. Kind of just like the little things like that.
Now, I know it's been only a couple of days, but do you have any coping mechanisms that you have already put in place for yourself or maybe even the family, people affected by his passing?
Um, I've made time to read. Usually during the semester, I don't read as much because I'm really busy, but I love to. So I made some time. That's what I did on Monday. And I did some reading yesterday too.
Do you want to maybe explore how reading and making that time kind of helps you feel?
I think it's that concept that when you're reading, you're in a different place. It's also relaxing. It's not stressful. It's just very peaceful, to read. Well, depending on the book, but, you know, yeah, I'm reading a good book right now. So that's more uplifting rather than something that might be darker. So I'm reading something more uplifting. So helps me. If I'm going to, go to another place, I might as well make it a good one. So
And if you're thinking of any coping mechanisms throughout this session or anything, feel free to tell me and we can definitely work through those and see if one of them will help you more or help you if you think you need it down the road, or even for Nico or his mom or anything like that.
for me, a big coping mechanism that I definitely used this week was cleaning.
Mm.
So Sunday night, I got home from work, or Sunday day, I got home from work and I cried and I took a nap and I did that. And then I got up and I cried more, but I didn't want to just be in bed. So my boyfriend came over to me crying and doing the dishes because at least that way I'm doing something productive. It makes me feel, you know, like I can be productive while feeling my feelings. So
Right. And I know you've mentioned in our previous sessions that a clean house makes you feel good. So, yeah, I definitely could see how cleaning is definitely a big coping mechanism. And that's awesome to hear that you can do that while processing all this grief.
yeah, because it's something that you don't really have to think about. It's an action rather than a thinking thing. So even though reading is peaceful, you are thinking about things versus with cleaning, you're just cleaning. You're just doing the dishes, you're just doing laundry, folding laundry, whatever. So it's not too bad.
Just doing the normal routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels normal too.
Okay. So when you think about going back to class this next week and showing up to work, what do you believe or what do you think is going to feel the hardest for you?
I think so. I noticed last week that on my days, I noticed that Steve wasn't there, which it wasn't always uncommon because if he had a son, he couldn't bring his son that early. So I didn't think anything of it. But now I think I'll be more aware of the fact that he's not there because I know why he's not there. You know, I think
Yeah,
that'll be the biggest difference there.
yeah. And I know you've mentioned that people look to you at work, to find out what's going on in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of want to know, have you been feeling supported at work or what feelings arise with the people around you at work?
Um, Everybody's been nice, even if they've been nosy. So, no one's been nosy and rude to say the least.
That's good.
And I worked this morning and I had called my manager yesterday and told him that the viewing was today. And he asked me, he was like, well, do you plan on coming back to work afterwards? Because I still had quite a bit of my shift left. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, well, I don't know. And then he was like, actually, let me answer that for you. He goes, you're going to take the day. Like, I don't want you coming back after this. Like, that's too much of a ask with this kind of situation. So that was very kind of my boss to do, to make that accommodation. And he figured out my coverage for me. He didn't make me have to worry about that. Um, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like your boss is definitely understanding of the situation you're in and maybe creating that space and time for you that you need.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
What do
I
you,
think it also helped. We had, corporate people in town today, so I
mm,
think it probably wouldn't have been the best to have someone come back from a viewing, maybe being not super motivated to be at work.
right,
Yeah, so it's a win-win situation on both ends, in my opinion.
there you go. Now, what would help you feel even just a little bit more at ease as you get back into work and school in this upcoming week?
Um, just knowing that Nico's doing okay, hearing how he's doing, and hopefully he's doing good. So we'll have to see about that though.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a tough situation. And yeah, I definitely understand and validating that for sure.
Mhm.
And sometimes, we don't even realize what we need until we say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a big thing after the service today was everyone just wanted Nico to eat, but he
Mhm.
didn't eat all day today. I don't know if he's eaten yet, but he wasn't hungry, which is, understandable, but so a growing boy needs to eat. So
Yeah, no, that's a tough situation. And I can tell you care a lot about Nico and how he's feeling and what he's dealing with. Would you maybe like to explore a little bit more into how we can create some coping mechanisms or anything like that for Nico in the next few days?
for Nico, I don't really know. I know his mom wants to get him into like play therapy, which will be good for him. But I think there's so many changes happening with him. He was confused why he couldn't see his dad. And then he, was able to understand why he can't see his dad anymore. And now he's moving. He has to sort through all of his toys at his dad's house, and he can't keep everything because there's not room for everything at his mom's. So now he's also moving in a sense, which is a lot for him. So, yeah,
Yeah, that is a lot.
I think he just needs. I think he'll be good though. He's got a lot of people that support him. So I think he's got. Um, yeah, I think once he gets past all the changes aspects of it, he'll be okay. Just a lot of change at once.
Definitely a lot of change. Now, what's maybe one small thing that you can do in the next few days to be able to take care of yourself while still handling work and all your responsibilities?
Um, Probably do something for myself, like go for a walk or go get my nails done or something self care esque.
Everybody needs self-care. I definitely encourage you to, yeah, do your self-care, clean the house even more, read
Really
your
spotless.
books. Yeah. And yeah, go get your nails painted, whatever that may be. I, again, really want to acknowledge how much strength it really takes to show up, and especially on a day like this where you've been carrying a lot. And again, if we think about these next few days, what's one thing that you can create to maybe have some space for yourself, even in some small moments?
I'm not quite sure. What do you mean by that? So like,
Um, just kind of like what your managers are doing by giving you that space and taking that time off to really fully understand the grieving process and go through that. I just kind of want to understand, how you can maybe create that space for yourself and take some steps forward into this
um,
process.
I think not hiding from the fact that I might need some time, speaking up rather than pushing through isn't always the best idea. So, letting them know, hey, I need a moment here or I need a moment there.
And another question that I kind of have is if you've been in a similar situation or you've been in a tough situation like this before, what's one thing that you'd want to remind yourself of when work starts to feel overwhelming or there's too much going on at school?
Mm-hmm. Probably that everything passes. I'll be done with school semi soon, and work will always have its ups and downs.
Definitely. And yeah, just want you to know I'm here to support you as well. So I'm here for you. Do you feel like you have the support you need to get through this situation?
I think so. I think I have enough people in my corner.
It's good to hear. Now, the last question that I do have for you is if the person were here today that you lost, what do you think he would want for you in this moment?
Um,
And take your time. I'm here for you when you're ready. Think about it. It's definitely a tough question.
I think there'd be a couple of things. He was really always really big on me getting a concealed carry. That was like his number one thing he always brought up with me. Um, I think part of that too was because if I had that, I think he would have been able to tell me where things were in the house. Had something happened while I was with his son, the more I think about it, that was his way of gently saying, get that so you can protect my son too, kind of a thing. But he was always really big on focus on your studies. He was a very big supporter of me being in school. So he would definitely want me to, make sure that I'm taking care of my business that needs to be taken care of. That's definitely something he'd want, just to make sure that I'm still doing good in every other area.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Mhm.
It sounds, again, like he's very supportive. He was very supportive of everything that you're doing.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
It's good to hear. And again, I really do appreciate you being open and honest about what you're going through. I know this isn't easy, and I want you to know that whatever you need, whether it's space, support, or just someone to listen, I'm here,
Thanks, Ben.
of course. Now, I might have lied. I do have another question for you.
Saw that
But
coming.
before we wrap this up, what is one thing from today's conversation that feels most helpful
Mm-hmm.
or reassuring to you?
Um, I think it was good just to talk about the good things about Steve and who he was as a person. I think that was really helpful. And to try to remember, what he would think of the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure that as you step back into work and your daily life and your school routine, that you feel like you have something to hold on to from this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like it is an important part about remembering who he was and who he was for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And again, I know today was tough, and I really do admire how you showed up for yourself. And remember, take this one step at a time, and remember that it is okay to lean on people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're reaching the end of our time, so if you have anything else, I'm here for you. Of
Yeah, I think I'm good. Thanks.
course. Okay. Well, I look forward to our next meeting, and we'll definitely figure out a time for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if that's everything, I'll stop the recording and then we can chat about that. Awesome.